There is a place where the horizon gives no warning, just a patch of silent earth in the French countryside that refuses to forget. To the casual eye, it is merely a hollow in a chalky hillside. But beneath that modest opening, they call it Naours, the underground refuge. The air there is still and cool and carries a scent of damp chalk dust. When you first descend the narrow steps, passageways stretch into every direction. You become aware of your own heartbeat. This is a city whose architecture was built not for glory. How many thousand souls once hid here, and how many secrets still cling to those chalk-carved walls are questions that refuse to be answered. At first, but as the lantern flickers across the flint-scared ceilings, whole families would descend with their livestock and their last sack of grain. They would seal themselves into a world of permanent twilight while empires above them shattered and reformed like storm clouds. The silence of those corridors now is nothing like the silence they once knew, pressed thick with held breath and the constant fear of being found. The physical evidence sits in the walls themselves. Marks of crude iron tools that scratched through the chalk century after century. Here is a stable carved from the living rock. There is a communal oven. The chapel chamber still holds a stone altar. More than 300 chambers and 2 kilometers of tunnels have been mapped. What began as a Roman-era bolt hole slowly evolved into a medieval underworld. Every time a new army rode across the Somme. Yet the most haunting evidence is not the architecture, it is the sudden. One chamber bears the carved signature of a soldier from Napoleon's Grand Army. The Labyrinth eventually attracted not only peasants fleeing swords, but later generations of soldiers who found shelter in its darkness. During the First World War, they scratched their names and regimental numbers into the same walls where medieval farmers had once hung their lanterns. A long-eared arrow points the way to a makeshift hospital. Some walls record the full roster of a distant family across several generations, a stone genealogy of fear. But for all the centuries of occupation, by the time the 19th century historian began his search, local legend whispered only that there was a fairy hole or a devil's pit. The rational mind had suppressed the enormity of the truth. In 1887, imagine that moment, a shaft of natural light falling for the first time in centuries onto a stone hearth where charcoal still lay cold. The air stirred. Men with torches walked corridors that had known only the leathery touch of sleeping bats and found the remnants of a hidden civilization. A child's leather shoe. What happened to the last inhabitants who never came back up is a silence that no amount of archaeological excavation can truly breach. We tell ourselves that history is a solved puzzle resting safely in libraries. The established theories attempt to tame the labyrinth with practical explanations. A refuge. There is a logical comfort in imagining the underground city as a mere basement complex. But the sheer scale and the carvings suggest a relationship with the subterranean world that goes far beyond a fleeting military tactic. Some researchers theorize that the city represented a parallel society. The chalk walls would have glowed faintly in the dark by fungal phosphorescence. A darker hypothesis suggests that the labyrinth was not just a shelter against war, but a deliberate forgotten cult space. The symbols scratched beside the saints, pagan spirals and ambiguous labyrinthine marks, hint at beliefs that existed in the margins of Orthodox history, where archaeology faltered. What if some chambers were never meant for daily shelter, but for the ritual guarding of a secret that perished with its final keeper? We may map every turn of the tunnels with laser precision, The labyrinth challenges our understanding of what a city actually is. Must it have sunlight and open squares to be a true human home? The weight of the earth above was not just physical protection, but a constant, and yet the graffiti reveals tenderness, a ship carved with full sails. These are not the marks of a people utterly broken by terror, but of a community stubbornly clinging to their identity in the abyss. The theories clash as each generation of historians projects its own anxieties onto the chalk walls. Economists look for evidence of hidden trade routes, but the city itself stands mute. You walk from one chamber to the next and realize you are not retracing a path, but peeling back the layers of a collective human psyche. There is a particular corner where a soldier of the Great War carved his name above the faded mark of a 16th century shepherd's crook. Two men. That is the true mystery, not the function of the rooms. The human element claws at you as you pause and extinguish all modern lights. In that void, we know that some inhabitants went blind from the eternal night. The psychological toll of that existence, the fear of ceiling collapse. There are no murals of victory here. The obsessive quest to find the true Naours has driven historians to madness. Every time a new passage is found, the underground city does not reward those who seek a comfortable closure. It absorbs them into its own quiet rhythm of waiting. And so the seekers become part of the graffiti themselves. There is a specific terror in realizing that the entrance you used was once a carefully guarded secret. How many traitors were silenced in these passages? A feint. To stand there is to grapple with a fundamental human capacity, the ability to convert immense fear into a cathedral of survival beneath the field. It is an architecture born from paranoia. You feel an unexpected kinship with those who vanished simply because you. The 19th century rediscoverers spoke of a profound silence, not just an absence of sound, but a palpable. They described a weight in the air, as if 1,000 invisible gazes were still watching over the hearths and the empty storage silos. Even now, the city waits. As we step back into the fading daylight, the true enigma is not how they dug it. We build our glass towers and our digital clouds. It is a reminder that behind the surface of every mapped landscape, the silence that greeted the first explorers in 1887 is the same silence that will remain when our own monuments have crumbled into dust. We tell ourselves that time reveals all things. The chalk walls bleach and crumble infinitesimally. Someday, a farmer might pause there. And that is the ultimate fate of Naours, to fade again into folklore. It is humbling to realize that our vast historical consciousness is merely a brief candle held up against a mountain of forgotten stone. The labyrinth does not offer answers. It offers a profound reflection of our own mortality and the ultimate erasure that awaits every civilization. What other cities? What names? Question is not what Naours was. We carve our love letters into the walls of a temporary refuge. The underground city endures as a testament, not to architectural genius. And in the end, the chalk breathes out, the shadows reconvene, and somewhere in the deepest gallery,